Om Jai Sai Ma.
Om Jai Sai Ma.
Welcome to this webinar. Welcome to the physicality, the divine physicality of the divine feminine. Today's webinar will be diving into what the physicality means in the context of the rise of the divine feminine. How to prepare the body for the energies of Mary Magdalena. How to create a vessel that is filled with light, that is made of light. How to be an embodiment of that divine Shakti. We welcome you. My name is Achyutananda Das, and I have with me my beloved teacher, Sophie.
Om Jai Sai Ma.
Transfiguration of the physical body. Let's take a moment and just breathe. A deep breath. And with each inhale, breathing in that love that we are. And with each exhale, allowing all limitation and resistance to just melt away. Nurturing the body with the breath. And invoke the presence of our beloved Sai Ma. Invoke the presence of Mary Magdalena. And in that, we invoke that fierce devotion, invoking that steadfast commitment to service, serving the light. Being that divine love in action. And gently opening the eyes when you are ready. Om Jai Sai Ma.
Om Jai Sai Ma.
So the Mary Magdalena Practitioner Program is about being a master in every aspect of our lives. It's about divine mastery. We've spent the past year or two mastering patterns, mastering the patterns of the mind and the patterns of our emotions. today, in this context, we'll be diving into mastering the physical body. How many of you have noticed that many of your patterns are related to the desires and the wants of the physical body, to the comforts of the physical body? How many of you have noticed that there are habits related to the physical body that are very hard to come out of? And it could take the form of what we put into our mouths in terms of nutrition or food. It could take the form of not moving as much as we'd like to, exercise. It could take the form of various pains that have been with us for a long time. There are many ways that these limiting patterns can show up with the body. First is to become aware of them. And to be aware that these patterns, both of the mind, of the emotions, and these habits of the body, are constantly creating the state of our physical vessel. This is the context we're operating within. And Sophie Michaud will take us deeper into that.
Thank you, Achutananda. So the three key teachings of our webinar today are: first, why are we doing all that pattern work? It's because with our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions, we are creating our physical body. That the cells are to be deprogrammed and reprogrammed from death to life. And that the human body is transitioning to a crystalline body of light. So I'm going to speak about what is the impact of our patterns on our body, starting with the mind. The mind is the master over the body. The body does and becomes whatever the mind believes. We have seen that in the brain, the neurons are connected to form a network, like a neural net. And each place where the neurons connect is linked to a thought or to a memory. And they are linked by association. They form that network. And the emotions that are related to these thoughts depend on our assessment of the situation, what meaning we give to it. And that depends on previous experience, our conditioning. So for example, when we experience the feeling of love, that can be connected to sorrow, to pain, to fear of being rejected, to guilt, to anger, to rage, because it is linked to one person, that is linked to one event, which is linked to another event, which is linked to another feeling. It's all that network that's interconnected and that is activated. And most of these thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, in fact, like 95% of them, are subconscious. And they occur very, very fast. In fact, we have something like 500 milliseconds to catch ourselves before the pattern kicks in. You know, the person in front of us didn't even say anything. The subconscious knows it's going to happen, and the pattern is right there. So that's why Ma says, okay, take a breath. Take a breath. And why is that? It's because we process subconscious information way much faster than conscious information. The conscious mind processes at 40 bits a second, whereas the subconscious mind functions at 40 million bits a second. So it's very, very fast and very reliable. And 95% of the thoughts we have in one day are the same as the thoughts we had the day before. And most of them are unpleasant. Why is that? It's because our brain is wired for safety. we are in a survival mode by design and by default. Next slide. So every thought produces a chemical reaction in the body. And there's a part in the limbic brain called the hypothalamus, which assembles chemicals that match every specific emotion that we may have. And these chemicals are called neuropeptides or neurohormones. And they match every emotional state that we experience on a daily basis. So there's chemicals for anger, there's chemicals for sadness, there's chemicals for guilt, you name it, all kinds of chemicals. And the moment we experience that emotional state in our brain, the hypothalamus immediately assembles that peptide and releases it in the bloodstream. So from there, it goes everywhere in the body. And it impacts our nervous system. So it makes us move, cry, say something, do something. It impacts the autonomous nervous system. The heart rate changes, the breathing changes, the breath, the digestion changes. And it also impacts our endocrine system, our hormones, our immune system, and in fact, every cell and organ in the body. So, emotions and thoughts are not only in the brain, it's everywhere in the body. And this is why we say that thoughts are big actions. It's because they impact our entire physiology on a cellular level, but also on an atomic and subatomic level. So if we'll go back to the slide before, thank you. If we look at the cellular impact first, each cell has thousands of receptors at its surface like that. And receptors are specific for each type of the peptides I spoke in the last slide, okay? And they look for these neuropeptides. And when the peptides bind to the receptor, to that specific receptor, it moves the receptor. And that sends a signal inside the cell. And this sets off a whole cascade of reactions inside the cell, some of which impact, okay, next slide. That may impact our genetic expression, our DNA. If I'm allowed to say so, our body is like a protein-producing machine. Okay, so when a gene is expressed, it produces a protein. And depending on which part of the gene is expressed and how it is assembled together, it can produce a different kind of protein. So what is important is not having a particular gene, but how it is expressed and what is the protein that is produced at the end. What is the structure of that protein? And that depends a lot on our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. Studies have shown, in fact, that from a single gene, one single gene, you can have more than 2,000 variants of the proteins that is produced at the end. So we are not victims of our genetic code. In fact, about 5% of disease are really genetically related, and 95% are lifestyle related, and we have some power over that. Our emotions, beliefs, go back please, also have an impact on our mitochondria. We have about 500 to 2,000 mitochondria in each cell. And these mitochondria are really the expression of the divine mother in us, because the DNA of the mitochondria comes only from the mother. And the mitochondria are the power engine of the cell. This is where energy is created, both physical and subtle, our light. So our thoughts and beliefs impact also our energy level and our energy field. Next slide. It impacts also the water of the body, and this is an important concept. The water of the body is a liquid crystal, and its structure is influenced by our thoughts, our emotions, beliefs, but also by the environment, light, sound, vibration, and by consciousness. And although water molecules only comprise about 75% of our body weight, we are made of 99% of structured water molecules. And the word structure is important because the structure of the molecules, these molecules in our cells, our bloodstream, and around the DNA strands is directly related to our health. And the structure, and in fact, the water inside healthy cells does not look the same as the water inside sick cells. And the structure of the water and its geometry serve as a source of energy, but also as the storehouse of memory and information in the body. So that's very important. So,
and Sophie, if I may, this is very important to understand this idea of sacred geometry. The water, when we say the water is a crystal, in a healthy state, in a vibrant state, in a divine state, the water is crystalline. And it's crystalline in a way where this sacred geometry becomes manifest, where the Metatronic patterns, where this star tetrahedron, the Vesica Pisces, all of these images and these geometries manifest in the body. And many of you who have been with Ma for a long time have seen the blood, Ma's blood, manifest this sacred geometry. It is this crystalline nature of the water that Sophie is speaking to that allows for that when we are aligned.
Yes, thank you, Achutananda. So the body is the unconscious mind, and the body is what we need to transfigure. Okay, our body, that is our work. Okay, we didn't come for anything external, any distraction. We came for that. Okay, so next slide. So going back to the cell, each cell has a consciousness. And these molecules of emotions, if I can say, these neuropeptides are addictive on a cellular level. Okay, these neuropeptides have the same effect as a drug on the cells or on the brain. Okay, and we always want more of that. So we bring to ourselves situations that will fulfill the chemical craving of the body. The definition of addiction is something that we cannot stop. So if we cannot control our emotional state, that means that we must be addicted to it. Like if I cannot stop being frustrated, probably I am addicted to frustration. But if we decide to transmute that limiting pattern into a liberating pattern, it takes time to install the new habit. And sometimes you may have noticed that after a while we can have some thoughts that try to discourage us from doing that. I don't know if you ever noticed that, but for example, let's say I'm addicted to cappuccino, okay? And I decide, okay, I won't drink coffee anymore. That's not good for my body. So after a while of doing this, and especially if I'm tired or stressed, okay, I will have some thoughts like, oh, come on, the cappuccino, that would be so good. Just one cappuccino. That's not a good day. I'll start over tomorrow, but today I need a cappuccino. And these thoughts or voices come from the body, okay? They come from the cells. They are craving for their drug. It's really a drug. And it's the same thing for emotions to which we are addicted. So like anger and frustration, for example. If I'm addicted to anger and frustration and I don't get my dose for the day, I may have these kinds of thoughts, ooh, did you see that? That's a very frustrating situation. That's a very good one. And I have to be vigilant about that. But it comes from the cells that send a message back to the brain saying, we haven't got our dose today. So we must be very aware and vigilant about these thoughts if we are to become the master of ourselves. But knowing about where these thoughts come from allows us to, it gets easier to just observe them because, okay, we know it's from the cells and it's a normal reaction. But we need to keep our focus and direction if we are to be the master of ourselves and using our will. Why? Because these limiting patterns can eventually make us sick, okay? If we are angry for 10 minutes or for 3 days, it will have a measurable impact on our organs and our field. At first, the body will try to go back to equilibrium and harmony, and we are okay at the beginning. But with time, if we are angry on a daily basis, and if we get frustrated on a daily basis, or if we suffer on a daily basis, the same chemical reactions are triggered over and over and over again on a daily basis in the cells and in the organs. And after 20, 30, 50 years of that, the cells and organs are not able to go back to equilibrium anymore, and they wear off. So we then can start to have what I call functional dysfunction. It's the cells start not to function as well, and we can start having symptoms and feeling disease. And we go to the doctor and they run tests and say, we don't find anything. You're in good health. You know, it's the function that is altered. And with time, if that continues, it's the matter of the cell and the organs can be altered, and that's what is causing physical disease and physical conditions. Next slide. So we have seen that patterns impact our physiology and our health, but they also impact our energy field and our energy levels. And this field around the body, the organs, and the chakras can now be measured using different tools. And today I'd like to share with you an experiment I did on myself at Shiva Night. And my question, I wanted to know what was the impact of Shiva Night on my energy field using one of these tools. And you'll get the pictures of that in a document you'll receive probably next week. So I had been measuring myself for many weeks before Shiva Night. So I had an idea of my baseline level before. And the day before Shiva Night started, I was doing Seva at the hotel. And the Shiva energy was very intense. It was very strong. And at the same time that day, I was very concerned about something. You know, there was something worrying me. So the combination of all of that, you know, Seva, Shiva energy, worrying, it all triggered my pattern of stress and anxiety big time, okay? So the day Shiva Night started, I measured myself, and I was just exhausted. It didn't even start. And I was tired, I was drained. And what I noticed on the measurement is that my energy level was very low. My field, you'll see that my field was weak and full of holes and breaks, okay? And so that was making me very vulnerable to outside vibrations like fear, and I was attracting the exact same vibration in my field. And my chakras were very small, very contracted and not aligned. So I was very impressed by that. And so I went to Shiva Night and I measured myself again after the first day, the first night. And then I did that before and after personal session. And before personal session, I saw that my energy field became more expanded, and there were no more holes in my field. It was stronger, and I was feeling more energy. And my chakras were more expanded. They were bigger and better aligned too. But, you know, even though the personal session was absolutely exceptional, you know, we all received the specific Shakti we needed, you know, from Shiva, Master Jesus, Ma, Mary Magdalena, and all these cosmic beings. The amount of light we received was huge, and it was perfect, you know. So even with that exceptional personal session, when I tested myself afterwards, I thought, okay, my energy field and chakras were still better, but they were not perfect. You know, they were not exceptional, they were better. And it took me time after to really absorb that energy. It took days and weeks for that to get in my field. And at the beginning, the energy was not stable. So the personal session experiment, it made me realize how much resistance there's in me. And there's just as much light as I can receive, you know, just as much as I can take. And it's even more difficult for the light to get in when I am in a contracted state. And unfortunately, in general, the amount of resistance is much greater than the amount of receptivity in us. And one must work very hard to be receptive, to become receptive to the light. There are 100 times more light around us than what we can receive. And we are in a sea of tremendous vibrations, and especially in this program. And most of the time, I'm not even aware of it because I'm not receptive to it. So, and if I don't feel it, it's because I'm not able to receive it. I'm not receptive. So that experience really increased my awareness about, first, what I'm doing to myself, what I get into my limiting patterns, and what it's doing to my health, all these holes in my field. Second, the importance of increasing my receptivity to the light. And third, the importance of taking care of the physical body. Because I saw that when the body is weak, it is very difficult to receive the Shakti and very difficult to hold it to. And it may be even too much for the body to handle. We can even get sick if we're not ready to receive that kind of intensity. And in this program, we need to be an embodied practitioner. It's very important. And if we're not receptive, a big part of that energy that Ma, Mary Magdalena, Jesus, all these cosmic beings are pouring upon us, no, it's wasted. It's just spills over because we're not able to take it. Next slide. So how can we become more receptive to the light? Receptivity is like a radio antenna. You know, we have to be quiet in the line to receive the signal. And the simplest way is just to open ourselves, just using our breath. Okay, breathing in the light. It's very simple, and calling the light from above our head, our antakarana, and feeling it go through the crown chakra, and enlarging our consciousness more and more, and wider, to become, you know, that vast receptacle that's infinite, and bringing quietude in the mind. That's very important, the silence in the mind, a mind free from any disturbance, from any trouble, like a very calm mountain lake, you know, very, very calm. Because when the mind is quiet and calm and at peace, the light can work much more easily. And getting in touch with our cells and our DNA, when I get inside me, I feel the fear in my cells. You know, I feel my cells are like that. You know, it's they are that tremor, and I have to tell my cells, quiet, calm, peace. You know, to calm them. Our cells are just like little kids. You know, they have all kinds of desires and fears, and you know that there's chaos inside, and that's making me age. You know, it's the chaos, and so we need to nurture them just as little kids, and guide them as the Divine Mother, because we are the Divine Mother for ourselves. We are that. And treating them with the compassion and the love and the tenderness of Mary Magdalena, but also with firmness, like a mother, and fearlessness, because we are the master. We are the master of ourselves. And our work is to keep the small self safe, the small self inside. It's very important that it feels safe so it can surrender. and bringing in joy in our field. Cells respond to joy. They are joy. And having absolute faith in the divine grace, relying upon it. Because, we cannot do all this work just by ourselves.
Sophie, if I could jump into, there's a story I want to share about joy. A story that Ma shared with me many years ago. If you imagine your energetic field, your body, and the subtle bodies as a series of layers, when all of that is contracted, as Sophie was sharing, there's little space between those layers. They're very tight, like this. When you allow for joy to exist, and remember, I use the word allow for a reason, because that is your nature. That is our nature. The core of our being is bliss, is ananda, is joy. If you allow for that to arise, then what happens is this happens. The layers between, the space between the layers open up. And then when you invoke and call upon that light, as Sophie was saying, then that light allows, that can go in between those layers and wash it out. So that joy opens up that space. It's another example you can think of is, imagine you're holding a sponge and you're running it under a water faucet. If you're squeezing that sponge, what happens? The water just slides right over the sponge and into the sink or wherever. If you let go and allow that sponge to open, then the water can come in and be absorbed and fill in all this space. So as Sophie's sharing, opening yourself, calling upon that light, feeling that joy, what that does is it opens up all this space, and truly that light can be embodied in your field rather than just being wasted, as Sophie said.
Thank you, Achutananda. So, going back to the faith, I'm sorry. I just want to say that it's not only, we don't have to do all this work only by ourselves. You know what? Everything is given to us in this program, especially with Saima, Mary Magdalena, Master Jesus. All that light is there for us, and we can trust that it's possible for us to do that work. And we would just have to let the grace do the work. That's all, and get out of our own way. And with that quietude, we can also scan our body to see if there are zones of contraction and pain that are blocked there. And with the breath, relaxing that part and relieving that tension to bring back harmony, because emotions can be blocked in the body, and that can cause pain and difficulty even to move the body. So, and this all has a symbolism. So bringing that awareness inside the body to be able to relieve that and bring peace and calm inside. Becoming aware. Okay, next slide. So the last thing I'd like to share with you is that using the tool I was speaking about, I could see my energy field in 3 dimensions. And it really struck me how similar it looks like the egg Ma is holding in her hand. And when I saw that, I said, wow, that's me. That's exactly that. I am that, and we are that. We are light. And that made me very clear in my mind now. I am that. I am light. That's what we are. So thank you. And Om Jiji Saima.
Om Jiji Saima. Thank you, Sophie. Yes, we are that. This image is a powerful image. Ma has spoken about this image several times. Just take a moment and look into the eyes of Mary Magdalena. And align with her. Align with this wisdom. align with this knowingness of the cosmic womb, this cosmic egg. There are layers of knowledge, layers and depths of wisdom in this image. And I invite each of you, as the practice, to look at this image and to look at any image of a master. If you have an image of Ma in front of you, to look at an image of Ma and to dive into that. And you will see that there is a wisdom that arises. There's a knowingness that arises when one meditates upon that. That's a very powerful practice to do. So the crystalline body of light, or the bioluminescent body of light, this is where we are going. This is where humanity is moving to. The original blueprint for humanity was a blueprint of divine perfection. The original blueprint of the body in the Kabbalah tradition, the Adam Kadmon, this divine blueprint of the perfection of the body was a crystalline structure. This original matrix, this original blueprint, we are moving into once again. And I'm sharing this with each of you now to reawaken that seed that is within. To reawaken that knowingness in the cells that yes, it is possible to exist as a body of light. We are moving from the material to light, from darkness to light, from the unconscious to the conscious. Asato ma sadgamaya, from untruth to truth. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, from that murkiness and darkness to pure light. This is the idea of Mrityunjaya in the Vedic traditions, moving to the fullness of what is possible, moving to total liberation. And we speak of liberation and enlightenment as, in many ways, as something that maybe just happens with the mind. In the Western understanding, I think in the pop culture understanding of enlightenment, it has to do with what's happening up here, perhaps. And yet, what does it mean to be enlightened with the body? For the body to be transfigured. When we speak of transfiguration of the body, what does that mean? What is being transfigured? And in all that, as vanguards, each of us is that. As vanguards, we are moving to a new era in our civilization, to the golden age. Be that. Become an ambassador of that crystalline body of light. And take a look at this. And know that this is you. That this knowledge of the body as a pure vessel of light is a seed that can sprout in the cellular memory. This is a knowingness deep inside the cells. Today and here we are reawakening that. We are watering that seed. Take a moment to breathe this in. Breathe in this image as a knowledge, as a knowingness into the cells. With every breath, in the mind's eye, seeing the body glow brighter, radiating further. And you may continue to do this. Hold this image in your mind and see yourself as that as we continue. So transfiguration is about transformation at the deepest level. One example that Ma gave me is transformation can be as if we are painting the color of our walls a different color. So let's say your wall in your house is white, for example, and you paint a coat of blue over it. This is akin to transformation, right? It looks different. Transfiguration is as if that entire wall gets torn down. The whole wall gets torn down and a new one is built. The actual structure of the wall is different, is new. And yes, it can be painted over again, but the whole thing is completely different. And so when we speak of transfiguration at the cellular level, this is what's happening. The cells are being completely reprogrammed. And reprogrammed from what? The cells have a genetic heritage. The cells have influence and information from multiple sources, from the mass consciousness, from what we get by media, from the information from our parents as children and in the womb, and then constantly being programmed, as Sophie was sharing with us earlier, every day, hundreds of thousands of times a day, by our thoughts and our feelings and our actions. And so when we are transfiguring the cells, we are actually working at that level, deep down, and reprogramming it. This is a radical transfiguration of the cellular consciousness. Take a look at what the cells can look like as light. This is a white blood cell. This is an immune cell. Imagine the vitality and the function of the body if it were transfigured with cells that looked like this. Imagine now for a moment, just take a moment. This is all about reprogramming. And see a cell. Imagine a cell. And visualize that light around that cell. You may see the subtle bodies around a cell. And practice as you're working with that cell to allow more joy. When you take a breath in, breathe for the cell. Allow that relaxation, that nurturing, that love to be felt by the cell. Just take a moment, close your eyes, and be with that cell. Practice these tools. Be a divine mother to the cell. And now we will go further. Dive in deeper to your DNA. We will practice speaking directly to your DNA. Enter into a relationship with the DNA of that cell. Speak to the cell. Establish a connection. Feel that rapport. And notice the fear in the DNA. You may feel it in your body viscerally as you engage with the DNA. A tightness or a contraction. Become aware of the programming. Ancient programming of fear coming from our parents and our parents' parents and beyond and beyond. Generations of living in limitation. Generations of the belief in death. Hundreds, if not thousands of years of the cells believing in death. See that now. See how that is present. The first step in transfiguration is to become aware. Become aware of that part of you that believes that death is a reality. And now, in the space of courage, in that space of being in the heart, in the space of embodying Mary Magdalena, move into that place where you know death is not a reality and that who you are is eternal, no matter what. Move into that space of I am that I am. That I am endless. I am infinite. I am the source of life itself. Move there. Feel Ma with you. Feel Mary Magdalena with you. Feel Master Jesus with you. the resurrection, the ascension, that did not come from a place of death, that came from a place of I am life, eternal. And in that space, speak to the DNA in your cells and say, I do not believe in disease and death anymore. I do not believe in disease and death anymore. And speak to the DNA. I am life. I am life itself. I am eternal. Notice that as you speak these words, light comes out of the mouth. Light is in the brain, and that light holds information, and you are offering that information and reprogramming the DNA with that information. This is deprogramming and reprogramming the DNA. And you may do this at any moment. You may do this in your sadhana. First, move into that space of knowingness. Call upon Master Jesus. Call upon Mary Magdalena. Call upon Ma. And be in that space. And then speak to the DNA. And reprogram, re-inform your DNA with that knowingness. And you will see miracles happen. The body will transform. The cellular consciousness now is different, is new, is transfigured. And you will notice that the body begins to become a body of light, a radiant body. The skin will appear more radiant. There will be a feeling of vitality throughout the day. And you will walk around and say, I am light. And this is also the balancing of the divine masculine with the divine feminine. The two as one. And we will move into this place of androgyny. Ma has shared this with me, I can't remember how many times, that we're moving into this space of androgyny. This is the balance between the masculine and the feminine. And now look at this. When you work with the DNA in the way that we did, it becomes multi-stranded. It becomes a DNA informed with this crystalline intelligence, with the intelligence of the higher self, of the I am presence. And it begins to radiate. We know that photons, called biophotons, are emitted from the DNA. DNA emits light. We know this. And you will soon see that the DNA will radiate even more as you work with it, as you reprogram the DNA to be a DNA of life. Just absorb this image. Now, as a body of light, how do we engage with the world? What is the practicality of being this body of light in the world? We cannot spend a webinar going through each of these. Each of these can be days in terms of what we can share with you. And yet I will just point out here that there are a few key items to consider. One is nutrition. Be aware of what is put in the body. Be aware of how you are feeding and nourishing the body. Nourish the body with food and nutrition of high vibration. One thing that Ma has shared with me is when you're about to eat, ask yourself, is this food alive? Is this nutrition alive? If you look at something that's processed, for example, and I look at that and I say, is this alive? My answer is no. If I look at a freshly cut vegetable or a fruit, for example, and I ask myself, is this alive? Then yes, of course it is. Now, in that, be aware of where you source your foods. Be more conscious. Be more aware of what you choose to put in the body, and I'll leave it at that. I'd like to spend some time also speaking of water. Ma has spoken of wet water many times. When you drink water, there are specific kinds of water that actually are more likely to create this crystalline structure that Sophie mentioned. So I would spend some time. This is about becoming knowledgeable. Educate yourself. Go online and research. What is wet water? What are the best types of water? What is in my water that I'm drinking right now? Again, being conscious in everything in life, being a master in everything. And again, we will provide you with resources following this webinar for you to be able to continue this research. One other point here is about movement. When new information comes into the body is reprogrammed with that information. We know in movement science and in exercise science that this new information is deeper anchored, more deeply anchored in the body when it is learned through movement. And so I'll invite you to spend some time today or any time this week and just move freely. You may choose to have music in the background or not, but just allow the body to express itself as it wishes, in however way that looks like. You may see the body doing things that you wouldn't imagine. Just be in that space of freedom and call upon the light, call upon Mary Magdalena and Ma and that light, and allow it to descend as the body is moving. This will be a completely new experience for working with the light. There are several products available for each of you. We have supplements for the brain, and we are working on entirely new products for the brain to detoxify and to re-energize the brain that will be coming out later on this year. We have essences, oils, and the shungite rocks and crystals. All of this you can learn more about online. And now, where are we going from here? You will have a satsang coming up. Each of the satsangs allows each of us to dive further into the programs. The recent one was in limiting and liberating patterns and practicing I am devotion. The next satsang will dive deeper into the physicality and working with the physicality and movement and embodying that light and these energies more deeply. And working as an embodiment of Mary Magdalena. When you engage with others, when you look into the eyes of others, look into the eyes as Mary Magdalena. See the other as Mary Magdalena would see them. When you touch someone, when you caress your loved one, when you are with someone physically, imagine that as a divine being. As a physician, when I work with my patients and I touch them as an embodiment of that. I know that the physicality holds information. The work that Ma has done with this body holds information. And so when I touch my patients, I touch with that knowledge. And I invite each of you to do so. Know that your body now holds all the Shakti from the programs that you're doing and all the transformation that you're doing. And as you touch another, touch with that love and with that new information. And this is just day one of preparing the body for the energies of Mary Magdalena. Every day, have it be a new day to embody that energy. Practice these tools that we are giving you. And to end, or to close, I should say, I invite each of you to identify one habit that does not serve. I should say is not in alignment with this body of life and this body of light. And to transform it into one that does serve. Take some time and really think, what is a simple habit that I do that doesn't serve? And what would it look like if I were to perform that habit as a body of light in a way that serves? And begin to practice that. Just one. Begin to transform your life that way. And with that, I offer each of you my deep gratitude and my gratitude to my fellow teacher, Sophie, for being able to be here with each of you and serving in this way. My great, great love. Om JJ Saima.
Om JJ Saima.